find out what's happening this week in the world of books this and every Monday. Stay tuned! Welcome to Biblio Happy Hour's Biblio News segment, where we will be sharing new releases for this week, other titles to look out for in future, bookstore events, and what's trending. Before I get started, I just wanted you to know that you can listen to our off-the-cuff discussions, get our monthly top-shelf new release recommendations, behind-the-scenes content, perks, and more over on our Patreon page. Patreon is a super easy way to support the show, plus it helps us to grow and embark on new and amazing projects for both the book and bookstore community. So check out the details over at patreon.com/bibliofinder. And without further ado, here's what's new for the week of Monday, October 7th. The National Book Foundation will be announcing their Book Award finalists this week. 5 finalists will be announced on Tuesday, October 8th, and the winner will be announced on November 20th, so mark that date in your calendar. Now, I'll be mentioning some of the books that will be available on bookshelves during the week of Monday, October 7th. From Flatiron Books, Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is a tale of power, privilege, dark magic, and murder set among the Ivy League elite. Also from Flatiron is Salt Slow by Julia Armfield. This is a debut story collection that explores women's experiences in contemporary society mapped through their bodies. Also from Flatiron is The Girl Who Reads on the Metro by Christine Ferret-Fleury. This is a modern fairy tale about a French woman whose life is turned upside down when she meets a reclusive bookseller and his young daughter. From FSG Books, What is Missing by Michael Frank. This is a psychological family drama about a father, a son, and the woman they both love. From Sarah Crichton Books, Erosion, Essays of Undoing by Terry Tempest Williams. In this latest collection of essays, Williams explores the concept of erosion, of the land, of the self, of belief, and of fear. From Picador Books, Warsaw, 1944, Hitler, Himmler, and the Warsaw Uprising by Alexander Ritchie. This is a full, untold story of how one of history's bravest revolts ended in one of its greatest crimes. Also from Picador, Listen to the Marriage by John J. Osborne. This novel is a riveting drama of a couple with quite a few problems. Also from Picador, The Raven Master, My Life with the Ravens at the Tower of London, and this is by Christopher Scaife. Rumour has it that if a raven from the Tower of London should ever leave, the city will fall. In this book, we get a behind-the-scenes account of life with the legendary ravens at the world's eeriest monument. Also from Picador, Invisible, the forgotten story of the black woman lawyer who took down America's most powerful mobster, and this is by Stephen L. Carter. This book tells a true story of a woman who often found her path blocked by the social and political expectations of her time. From St. Martin's Griffin, The Widow of Rose House by Diana Biller. In this novel, a young woman restores a dilapidated mansion with the assistance of a charming, eccentric genius, only to find the house is full of dangerous secrets in this effervescent Gilded Age debut novel. New this week from St. Martin's Press is a debut thriller entitled The Furies, and we have the author Katie Lowe here with us to share all the details. Katie, welcome to Biblio Happy Hour.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, so excited to have you. I know your debut has been out in the UK for some time now, and you'll be making your debut in the US plus 8 other territories. How are you feeling?
Oh God, it's so exciting. It's been weird actually because there's been that gap. I've kind of had the summer not off. I went out to Amsterdam to do some promo there, but it's been a little bit more quiet. So suddenly this week it's been, there's been blogs coming out and, reviews and stuff. It's all picked up again. So it's been a bit of a shock. I'd kind of gotten used to it being peaceful again. Whereas now it's gotten very, high adrenaline, which is nice.
Yes. I can only imagine just how exciting this whole thing would be. But tell us about your novel. Tell us about The Furies.
So it's about a girl who joins a private school after an accident, which unfortunately leaves her with a huge amount of compensation, but some, troubles at home. She joins the school and, very quickly becomes friends with some of the girls who are, not necessarily the cool kids, but they're a little bit outside of, outside of the popular sort of remit, if you will. They are part of some advanced study classes in what kind of falls under art, but actually it includes myth and kind of ancient history, literature, that kind of thing. And they get kind of a little bit too into it. So soon enough, they're using things like the myths of the Furies and ancient paintings to justify kind of going up against what they see as the crimes of the patriarchy, but actually it's just on a much smaller scale. It's kind of what's going on in their own lives. So yeah, toxic friendships, obsession, witchcraft, murder, all my favourite things. And it's set in the 90s, which is, dream period to write about.
What would you say you enjoyed writing the most? Beginning, middle, or end?
That's a good question. I mean, I had a weird experience writing Furies because I wrote it all in sort of 7 months, and I was working at the time. I was working for an events agency, so I was working like 70-hour weeks. I was manic there. So every waking hour I was writing this book when I wasn't at work, and so there was a patch towards the end where it just felt so real to me. And I remember walking around. There's a little town called Falmouth in the UK. It's like a little beach town in Cornwall. It's actually got one of the best bookshops in the UK. And I kind of came out and was walking by the sea, and I knew exactly how it was going to end. And I went back to my little flat that I was renting, and I just wrote, I think it must have been about 30 pages on by hand in one go. And it just kind of wrote itself, it felt like, which, from deep in the depth of the second book right now, I'd say that doesn't happen very often. So I'd say probably the end, the most enjoyable.
Right. But on that note, what are some of your favourite bookshops?
Oh God, I mean, definitely. So the Falmouth Bookseller is beautiful. It's this tiny little bookshop, and it's just gorgeous. I know they do events and stuff. I don't live locally to it, so I've not been to anything of theirs. But there's a little gin palace next door, the kind they had in the 20s.
Yes.
So they do events with the support of the gin palace. I spent a lot of time in Paris last year, which was amazing. And so obviously, I was kind of in and out of Shakespeare & Co. On a nearly daily basis. It's such a beautiful bookshop, and it's just so atmospheric. So that would also kind of appear pretty high on my list, I would say.
But getting back to the book, how do you want readers to feel after reading The Furies?
Oh, that's such a good question. I would like them to feel a little bit not empowered. I feel like that's almost like too nice a word for it. But it's very much a book targeted at women. And I'm not saying by any means that the things that girls do in the book are aspirational or in any way, to be followed. It's not that kind of book. But I'm doing a PhD on female rage at the moment. The anger that they show and the way that they kind of, accept that anger and they use it. It's something that we're seeing across the culture with things like Me Too. So I think I would like people to kind of come away thinking, yeah, I understand that anger, and I'm not ashamed of my own anger that I maybe feel. Maybe a little bit dark, but.
All right, Katie, thank you so much for coming on the show. The Furies.
It's such a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. The Furies will be available in bookstores on Tuesday, October 8th. Tune in to our off-the-cuff discussion over on our Patreon page, where we'll continue the conversation with author Katie Lowe. We'll talk more about her concept for The Furies, her favourite mode of travel, and she also shares what she's doing when she's not reading or writing. From Page Street Publishing, Rustic French Cooking Made Easy by Audrey Le Goff. Macmillan Collectors Library will be putting out 5 new poetry collections: Poems of Childhood, Poems for Christmas, Poems for Happiness, Poems on Nature, and Poems for Travelers. From Catapult Books is a new story collection entitled Here Until August by Josephine. The stories in Here Until August follow the fates of characters who, by choice or by force, are traveling beyond the boundaries of their known worlds. New this week from Custom House Books is a new story collection entitled Sudden Traveler, and we have the author Sarah Hall here with us to share all the details. Sarah, welcome to Biblio Happy Hour.
Thank you very much.
Tell us really quick about your story collection, Sudden Traveler.
Well, it's 7 short stories, and they are, I guess, loosely themed. There's a fantasy element, kind of science fiction element to them. It's not exactly pure fantasy, but in each of the stories there is something a little bit strange and uncanny that takes the reader out of the real world, let's say, and puts them in a different kind of world they might half recognize. But other than that, the stories are very different. You know, they're taking place in different parts of the world, in Turkey, in Cumbria, in the north of England, all over the place.
Okay, so Sudden Traveler is your 3rd story collection. How is it similar to or different from your previous works? And if our listeners, if you're not familiar with Sarah Hall, she had a previous collection entitled The Beautiful Indifference, and her 2nd collection, Madame Zero. So how would you compare these two to Sudden Traveler?
I think some of the preoccupations are the same. There are characters that are on the margins of life somehow. They might be trying to find their place in the world, their place within a family. Something strange and big might have happened to them, and they're trying to make sense of it. And there's certainly a theme of animals and the rural in all of the collections. I was brought up in the Lake District in the north of England, which is a very beautiful, very wild place. Yes. So the sense of the wild world is never far away in my work. But I also think, you know, that these big questions that I'm interested in about life and about the meaning of everything, a kind of eroticism, is always in the work in one guise or another.
How long did it take you to write Sudden Traveler?
Sudden Traveler was quite quick, really. Probably, I would say, 2 years. The stories seem to work with each other over that period of time. You know, as I say, it was a very turbulent period of time in my life. And although it felt very difficult to find the time to write because I was caring for my child, and, you know, all mums and dads will realise what the impact that has on your work and your writing. It did feel like a quick book to finish. So it was that strange, odd metaphysical world, the fugue state of new parenthood and parenthood, but at the same, which stretches out, and you think you've got no time at all. Everything's fast and then it's slow. And I think this is very much a collection that's sort of working within those strange time metaphysics. So yeah, 2 years seems pretty quick for a book, but at the same time, to me, it's a miracle this thing even got written.
What would you say is your favorite underappreciated novel?
Oh, underappreciated novel. I don't know. I always find this question so difficult. I think there are novels that are not necessarily well known in a particular country. So I've just discovered some Turkish fiction in translation, and there's a wonderful, very short novel called Madonna in a Fur Coat, which is absolutely wonderful. Oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of the author. Sabahattin Ali is the author, and it's really fantastic. I think it was written in the 40s, but it's still in the bestseller list in Turkey, and the English translation is incredible. It's one of these short power novels, you know, that sort of gives you a fairly small model story, but actually speaking to very great things in the universe. And in some ways, I feel like, you know, not enough work is translated into other languages, and it's an absolute pleasure when you're coming across something from another culture that's of interest that way.
Absolutely. What are you hoping readers will take away from reading Sudden Traveler?
To answer the question, I think I have to think about my own reading experiences. And with short stories, I love feeling, you know, I sometimes describe short stories. This is an awful way of describing them, but it's almost like a bullet wound. they sort of go in neatly and cleanly in the beginning and leave this wide open kind of existential wound in you. But that's actually not a bad thing as a reader, because it really makes you think about mortality. It makes you think about the things you believe to be real. That it can kind of leave you reeling, and that's a tremendously powerful device. So I would hope that readers find in these stories not necessarily shocking things, but kind of very big reverberating aspects of their own lives, maybe not answers to questions, but just like a companionability in the stories. We're holding hands, moving towards the inevitable end and asking these big questions along the way. I just see short stories as kind of, disquieting companions.
Absolutely. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the show. Southern Travelers will be available in bookstores in the US on Tuesday, October 8th.
Thank you.
Tune in to our off-the-cuff discussion over on our Patreon page, where we'll continue the conversation with author Sarah Hall. She shares her concept for this new collection, how publishing her first book changed her process of writing, her advice to her younger writing self, and we also nosy in to find out if she's working on other projects. From Hanover Square Press, Before the Devil Fell, by Neil Olson. This is a dark, suspenseful novel that dives into the intertwined families of a small New England town and the history of witchcraft that binds them together. From William Morrow Books, Murder, She Said, The Quotable Miss Marple by Agatha Christie. This is a beautifully designed collection of charming quotations that showcase the wit and wisdom of Agatha Christie's widely adored Miss Marple. Also from William Morrow Books is A Bitter Feast by Deborah Crombie. In this novel, Scotland Yard detectives Duncan Kincaid and Gemma James are pulled together in a dangerous web of secrets, lies, and murder buried beneath the surface of a picturesque Cotswold village. New in paperback from William Morrow Books is Marilla of Green Gables by Sarah McCoy. This novel tells us about life on Green Gables before Anne. New in paperback from Eco Books is The Hazard of Time Travel by Joyce Carol Oates. From Harper Perennial, The Mistletoe Matchmaker by Felicity Hayes McCoy. This is book 3 in the Finfarron Peninsula novels. From Grove Atlantic, Freeman's California, the best new writing on California, edited by John Freeman. This is the 6th volume in one of the most exciting and innovative literary series of recent years. In Freeman's California, it features stunning new work by Tommy Orange, Rachel Kushner, Raina Grand, and more. New from Little Brown is What Happens in Paradise by Elin Hildebrand. Secret lives and new loves emerge in the bright Caribbean sunlight, in the follow-up to national bestseller Winter in Paradise. New in paperback from Bayback Books is In the House in the Dark of the Woods by Lard Hunt. Also new in paperback is Night Train by Thom Jones, with a new introduction by Amy Bloom. Also new in paperback from Bayback Books is An Orchestra of Minorities. New this week from Seal Press is an anthology entitled Burn It Down, Women Writing About Anger. And we have the book's editor, Lilly Dancyger, with us today to share all the details. Lilly, welcome to Biblio Happy Hour.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm super excited about this title, and I really want to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you that Burn It Down will be available in bookstores this week?
Oh, I'm so excited. It feels like it's been such a long time just of the build-up, and getting it ready to get out and doing all the promo and all of that. So the fact that it's actually tomorrow, I guess definitely at least a 10.
Alrighty. I noticed in the summary it was mentioned that all rage isn't created equal. Why do you think that is, and how can women go about expressing their anger?
When we talk about women's anger and making more space for it, there still is a lot of disparity, in who's allowed to express their anger, and we've made more progress, I guess, toward making cis white women's anger more culturally acceptable. But one of the things I really tried to address in Burn It Down was the way that anger intersects with identity and the way, Black women are treated even worse when they express their anger than white women are, and trans women as well. And so I tried to make it really be a multi-dimensional, diverse, intersectional discussion of anger and really who's allowed to express it and what we can do to make space for all women to be free to express the full range of their emotions.
Absolutely. When did you decide to curate this anthology? When did the light bulb go off in your head?
This actually was not something that I came up with. This was the original idea was developed in-house at Seal, and I had recently contributed to another anthology of theirs called Without a Net. It's edited by Michelle T. and about the women's experience of growing up working class. I had recently contributed an essay to that book, and I had a great experience working with the editors at the press. So when they decided they wanted to do an anthology about anger, they approached me and asked if that was something I'd be interested in. And it was like, a dream project for me. I was like, yes, of course. Absolutely. It sounds incredible. So it came to me that way, but I was thrilled to take it on. It was a really exciting project.
Alrighty. Who are some of the authors we can expect to hear from in this anthology?
We've got a mix of, some bigger names that people will recognize. We have Leslie Jameson, Melissa Thebos, Kia Brown, Meredith Tellison, Megan Stielstra. We've got some heavy hitters, and then also some really great emerging writers who, I was thrilled to be able to include in the anthology. It's kind of like placing a bet that I think they will be big names in a few years, and I'll get to say I knew them when.
Yes. What are you hoping readers will take away from reading Burn It Down, or how are you wanting them to feel after reading this book?
Yeah, I'm hoping that women who read the book will take it as an invitation to shift the way they think about their own anger and to embrace their anger and realize that it's not all negative, and that in fact, if you're a woman living in 2019, you have plenty of very good reason to be angry, and it's okay and even a positive, healthy thing to embrace that anger and express it and stop, shoving it down and feeling like we have to smile and be sweet and nice all the time. I also really hope that men read it, and understand a little bit more what it's like to be a woman in this world and learn to make a little bit more space for the anger coming from women in their lives.
Absolutely. Lilly, thank you so much for coming on the show. Burn It Down will be available in bookstores on Tuesday, October 8th.
Thanks so much.
Tune in to our off-the-cuff discussion over on our Patreon page, where we'll continue the conversation with editor Lilly Dancyger. Lilly shares where she gets most of her work done, what she's doing when she's not reading or writing, some of her favorite bookstores, her favorite mode of travel, and she answers the big question of whether she bookmarks or dog ears her pages. New from Da Capo Press, Escape from Paris, a true story of love and resistance in wartime France, and this is by Stephen Harding. Escape from Paris is a thrilling wartime adventure story of downed American aviators rescued by French resistance fighters. New in paperback is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nang, with a new foreword by James Patterson. New from Random House, Horror Stories, a memoir by Liz Phair. New from Viking Books is The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. This novel is set in the Depression era in America, and it's a story of 5 extraordinary women and their remarkable journey through the mountains of Kentucky and beyond. From Delacorte Books is Child's Play by Daniel Steele. In this new novel, Steele explores how families can evolve and grow in unexpected ways. New from Atria Books is How We Fight for Our Lives by Saeed Jones. Jones tells the story of a young, black, gay man from the South as he fights to carve out a place for himself within his family, within his country, within his hopes, desires, and fears. How We Fight for Our Lives is a stunning coming-of-age memoir. Also from Atria, A Spy in Exile by Jonathan Deschelette. New in paperback is The Winter Sister by Megan Collins. New from Howard Books, Miracles and Other Reasonable Things A Story of Unlearning and Relearning God by Sarah Bessey. This is a deeply moving and life-affirming account of wrestling with faith and God and finding miracles in the most unexpected places. New from Simon Books, Marley by John Clinch. This is a reimagining of Charles Dickens' classic A Christmas Carol, with a darkly entertaining and moving exploration of the twisted relationship between Ebenezer Scrooge and Jacob Marley. Alrighty everyone, that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening, and special thanks to Sarah Hall, Katie Lowe, and Lilly Dancyger for coming on the show. A list of all the books mentioned in the show will be available over at bibliohappyhour.com. Don't forget to follow Biblio Happy Hour on social media and sign up for newsletters. To shop all the books I've mentioned in the show and to find a bookstore near you or when you're traveling, visit bibliofinder.com. To listen to our off-the-cuff discussions, get our monthly top shelf new release recommendations, behind-the-scenes content, perks, and more, head on over to patreon.com/bibliofinder. And wherever you're listening, please don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Alrighty everyone, that's it, and I look forward to talking to you in next week's show.